You mentioned in one of the previous parts that you sort of travel the world to casinos and you're welcome in all of them, and obviously you're a big player, and you've managed to thrash out deals, battles some people would say, to almost give you the edge against the house. I mean, how do you manage to do that?
Right, I don't think there's any mystery in that. Is that the more action that you give them, the less edge that they're prepared to take, and also the less edge I give, the more fun I can have, the longer my money will last in these situations. And if you have the right side of variance, then you can have winning trips, which I've definitely done. I think I've had some really, really good ones over the years, stuff that doesn't really exist now, especially with the online casinos. Like back in the day, I had like one casino where they like sent me and all my friends to Australia. Another lot sent me to like the World Cup in South Africa. You know, I actually didn't even go, I was away. But like I sent my uncle and his friends, and they all went to the World Cup and various things. I was in, you know, sometimes you just want to push them a little bit just to see how much you can take the piss, to be honest.
I suppose they're so confident in their built-in percentage.
Yeah, of course. I was in Vegas maybe it's a few years ago, and it was Robbie Williams' first night, and they said, "Oh, do you want to go to the concert? It's the first night, and then we're hosting it here." And I said, "No, but I want to meet him." And I can see like the look on their face where they know that they're like, this is going to be that they're going to have to deal with him being a diva, but they know that I'm going to play off if they don't. So like, don't know what happened, but 25 minutes before the concert's about to start, they're like, go down to the lobby and he'll be there. So anyway, we go to the lobby and it's like, and I had a little chat with him, and then he was quite a nice bloke, but in the concert, he like did change like the lyrics to one of his songs to like talk about my jacket. I was like, fuck, it really goes a long way, like being a disgraceful degenerate in these parts.
Now, you mentioned before about you like doing the side betting, but people tell me that you actually are very good at it. So what makes you good at the side betting?
Well, if we just think like just randomly flipping to like being able to prop bet and stuff like that, I think I'm quite a good prop better. And that's an area where I probably win in terms of, you know, judging how much I can eat compared to the next person, or you know, how long a taxi will take to arrive outside of the house. Like those things, I feel it's maybe the only thing that in the world that I'm good at pricing up. But yeah, I'm quite confident on those, and I've had some fun ones over the years. Like if you go out for dinner with me, there'll be a few prop bets over the menu.
The rumour has it that you're a big darts fan and punter. Is darts an easy sport to win at? And where's the edge?
I tell you, it's interesting. There's no edge, that's the first. I mean, you might be able to get one on the first round if you really studied it, but the markets are tiny. But this is a real example of how everyone's worse off because people take the piss on margins. You know what I said earlier about give and take in gambling. The bookmakers, you know, the margins are so wide for like Premier League darts, which is the most accurate thing. They play every week, all the top players in the world, and they want to be like 5 to 6 each of 2, or they want to be 10 to 11 each of 2. Like, there's no need to be so greedy. Punters' money doesn't last. You know, anyone who likes gambling will see that they're taking the piss because they know that they can bet on other sports for a much smaller margin. And I've always been of the opinion that like bookmakers should take an edge, and the margin should be small, and that's where you get bigger turnover. That's where you get more engagement. But they want to. But basically, darts as a sport is basically ruined by the fact that bookmakers want to take such big margin. Now, I understand where you'd have some margin on smaller matches. You know, if you've not heard of the player, but when like it's one of the top 5 in the world and they're playing each other for the 60th time that year. Why do you need to be like 10 to 11 each of 2? Why don't you go like 196, 197, 195? Like that's still a big, you know, still like having 2 zeros on roulette. Like why? So basically, yeah, I like darts as a sport. It's another one of the sports that bookmakers ruin by wanting too much margin, and then they miss out on a ton of volume, and they would make much more. But because so many people are just so scared to lose, they don't operate properly.
And you sponsor the player?
I did sponsor a player. I sponsored Stephen Bunting, who was the Lakeside World Champion, and he had to walk into he looks like the Family Guy, so he gave him money to walk in, do it to the Family Guy song, to Peter Griffin's favourite song, and dance when he got on the stage. And he did that for like 5 years, and his profile like went up like that. And Eddie Hearn said like it was the best thing he ever did for his career and whatever. He got into the Premier League, not because of the song, but like it was just like built up his profile. And yeah, nice chap, fun times.
And you've gone back to your contact book again, more billionaires and celebrities than anyone else on the scene. Would that be right?
I know, celebrities. I'm not like a Phil Hellmuth type name dropper. Like that's not my thing. But if people are interesting and they like the same things that I do, then yeah, sure. Not because necessarily that they're famous, but because they're interesting. And like in terms of people who have wealth, I think that it's kind of nice for them to be around someone who isn't bothered about like money. Like I'm a different animal to a lot of people because obviously when you're a degenerate gambler, you're gonna have these huge swings and you become very immune to the money. So then when there are people with a lot of money, it's not like the same amount of impression and probably they kind of can pick up on that to an extent and like that. But obviously when you're gambling and you're gambling quite big stakes, then a lot of the people who you end up gambling with or against are going to be people who have a lot of money and it's just it's just like a hobby for them. But I always also think that like it has to have like it comes down to how well you get on with them and how much you like them. Like I've met so many wealthy people who aren't interesting and aren't on my wavelength, but the ones that are like it's great because if they're gambling, then I'm gambling at quite a high level, even though I don't have the wealth to do so, and they're gambling as well, and so it's a common interest.
Is this where Ben's in inverted commas ruthlessness comes in, because you're very good at finding and spotting people's weak spots?
I don't see how that's related to.
But I mean, if you get to like somebody and then you gamble against each other,
yeah,
all of a sudden it gets, the friendship stops.
And sorry. The most of the people who I know who are extremely wealthy, I'm not gambling against them. We might play poker, which is fine, and then the money goes back and forth. But there's no like, not like betting sports against them or anything like that. It's more like we'll gamble together, So we'll go to a place, we'll play in the casino, or we'll bet sports together, we'll hang out. Yeah, it's not like I'm finding someone who's rich and doesn't care about the money. Although that is the kind of profile I want to play against if I'm playing poker.
Well, the other snippet.
I always dream of that. And pipe dreams are good in a way.
The other snippet I had to actually ring up somebody and say, look, don't stick me in it, because this is obviously nonsense. But they told me that you love to play scissor paper stones, like the kids do with your
that's
mates.
A fun game. Yeah.
So that's actually a thing. And what sort of money do you play for there?
No, I mean, we just sometimes do it over dinner or whatever. But I've got a good record in that game. Like I'll win a lot in that game. I think that's like one of probably my biggest skill.
But how do you win it?
Well, because it's obvious. Like if you have a data of like 30 throws, you'll start to see patterns where people follow one thing with another. They don't do something after the other, after they win, after they lose, after they throw scissors, after they go scissor rock. So like, I don't know, it's kind of like in that moment, if you're quicker than they are, people don't realize that they're doing patterns. But yeah, it's a fun game. It's not a luck game.
Right. No, then your friends still stand for it, even though you're really good at it.
Some people are like, I've got one mate who we go out for dinner and he's like, no, we have to spoof because obviously rock, paper, scissors, I just lose every one.
And you're not getting good at spoofing?
Well, I know the basic thing of what to do when your head's up. So if you know that, you can't be that bad.
Okay, now, I'm told you spend most of your life on holiday. But does the stress of serious betting make that a necessity? Do you...
I don't think it's necessarily spend most of my life on holiday. I've been out of the country for like 2 weeks since January. But obviously if you do show someone a nice beach or whatever, that will stick with them for a while, especially if you don't speak to them very much. When I travel, I do tend to go for a while. I go for like, a month or two. I don't think that's because of stress. It's because, if you don't have a family like my parents aren't around anymore. I'm not married, so which comes back to why I'm doing the interview, because if there are any ladies who happen to like, degenerate gamblers from North London, then I don't know if this is a good medium for that.
Well, another selling point is I'm also told you're like Alberto Tomba on the ski slopes.
Yeah, I went skiing for 6 weeks a few years ago, and I went onto the slopes 5 times. So maybe like Alberto Tomba if he had like chronic laziness.
But
I'm not even very good.
Do you bet when you go on these holidays?
Of course. I like couldn't get out of the hotel one year because Big Bash was on, and I was like flipping coins on the Big Bash, and like it's not even like, I often find this when you really have like a bit of a sickness for it. It's like, so there's a girlfriend, and like, say it's like a Champions League game or like a big Premier League game or World Cup or huge boxing. Yeah, all right, they'll understand. Like, I can't come out tonight. Like, I'm going to stay at home and watch this. You can come out if you want. But when it's like Charlton Wickham League One, it's the only game on a Thursday, and you're like, well, I'm just going to stay in and watch the football. Like, it's so much harder to get that through.
No, this is a question from somebody. You've read people's minds and predicted what they will do and made a lot of money professionally from it. Has that helped or hindered you personally? And have you worked out the female mind yet?
I guess that like it's always good to be able to in any situation like get a feel of people. But having said that, like I've been conned out of fortunes by trusting the wrong people. Had people who I thought were friends like steal huge amounts of me. Other people just like vouch for the wrong people and end up like paying huge amounts. So it's great, but like you can't afford to get the big ones wrong, and then I have got the big ones wrong.
Okay, now when you sit at a table full of rich amateur poker players, your ideal sort of scenario, is it true that you will be a bit of a non-trier for the first few hands to lull them into a false sense of security and then clobber them?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that it would work. Or like I turn up what I am. Sometimes like my A game is still okay. Like it wouldn't be good against any good players, but I'm like a tilter. Like I steam. So like when I'm behind, it's a totally different thing. So when I'm ahead and doing quite well, I'm pretty controlled. Kind of like with betting as well. Like it's easy to lock up for the day. Like I've had enough. Like the Saturday afternoon, you've had a few bets on the Saturday. You've had a bet on the late game. You've won on the day. Like the Spanish football just doesn't seem that entertaining. You don't need to bet on it. When you're down, fucking hell, Spanish. Then there's like, so there's college football in America. Like you're going to go into the night. So it's just a question for me with poker. It's all about me rather than them, and it's not about lulling people into a false sense of security. I'm either all right, or the shop is not only open but been looted and someone's reversed in with a big vehicle.
Is there ever any danger of you waking up after going on tilt and you've really done it? You've really done it to the point of you're going to be in trouble?
I don't think so, because I just wouldn't have that much around me to be able to do that much damage. Like I know what I'm like to really be able to do much damage. But yeah, there's days where I've just like done too much, especially casino and sports punting. It's easy; it can easily get away from you. Like having like 5 losers in a row seems impossible at the start of the day. But like when you're staring down the face of it, like four bets in, and you're on the 4 to 6 shot, it doesn't seem like then it's suddenly very real. But yeah, there is that moment when you wake up in the morning, you're like, fuck's sake. But it doesn't happen that much, Start of the day is nicer, nerves, excitement, good energy, not sexual.